Welcome to Haunted Escapes with Chris and Diane.
This podcast will cover our trips to haunted hotels and locations.
We will go over a brief history of the location, our personal experiences, and even rate some of the ghost tours in that area.
Join us on our haunted escapes.
Philadelphia, the Delaware Valley, became a trading post for Dutch, Swedish, and English merchants in the 1600s. In 1681, William Penn, a Quaker, was given a royal charter from Charles II of England to start a new colony in America called Pennsylvania. Penn, who had been jailed twice for refusing the Church of England, hoped that Pennsylvania would be a peaceful refuge for people of all religious beliefs. In 1682, Penn arrived in Philadelphia. William Penn named the city from two Greek words meaning love and brother, and is where the nickname City of Brotherly Love stems from. In addition, he named Pennsylvania after his father by combining the name Penn with the Latin term Sylvania, so that it read as Penn's Woodlands or Penn's Woods. Philadelphia was originally founded by Native American tribe, the Lenape. William Penn, a pacifist, signed a treaty with Lenape chief Temanend, establishing a tradition of tolerance and human rights. Philadelphia became the biggest shipbuilding center in the colonies, and with the colony thriving, it drew the eye of Benjamin Franklin, who published the Pennsylvania Gazette in 1729, which would become the most prominent newspaper in America. A large bell was ordered for the Pennsylvania State House, which would later be known as Independence Hall, and the bell was to be inscribed with "Proclaim liberty throughout all the land, unto all the inhabitants thereof." In 1751, following the first assembly meeting there in 1735, after a series of taxes from British that drew outrage in the colonies, Thomas Paine wrote Common Sense, a pamphlet that drew enthusiasm and encouragement to join the Continental Army and gain independence from British rule. On July 4, 1776, Philadelphians were the first to hear the Declaration of Independence be read aloud in the State House yard.
Welcome to Haunted Escapes with Chris and Diane.
Hello.
This is episode 8. We're doing Philadelphia.
Yep, it's a city that we know very well.
Yes, we've lived here for quite a few years. I've lived here my whole life, and Diane's lived here for about 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, as long as we've lived in this house, I think it's more like 5.
Yeah, it might be 5. So, Philadelphia is a very important city to the founding of the country. It was the first capital during the Revolutionary War. It actually fell to the British during the Revolutionary War, and then we reacquired it. There is a battlefield, the Battle of Brandywine, which is very close. We have Eastern State Penitentiary, which is in the city. And there's also Penn's Landing, which is an excellent little area where there's some ships you can go on, and they have some little restaurants.
Yeah, my dad took us down to Penn's Landing a lot when we were little.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing because we did that too. We went there all the time. It's a big tourist spot. So also, and because the city has such rich history, there are tons of ghost stories. Just doing the research for this episode, there were so many we could not.
Yeah, we couldn't have all of them. We found at least 30.
Yeah, there are tons, and there are a couple ghost tours down here. The biggest one is the Spirits of 76, and they do a very good job with it. They meet in Siner's Garden.
Yes, I believe they go to 20 locations, and they dress in costume, they carry a lantern, and they're very in-depth with their stories. They do a very good job.
Yes, they do, and you're not always going to get the same locations. So depending on who the tour guide is, you might get different ones. So go a couple times if you can. So what we did was, while we were doing the research for it, we looked up a few, and we picked about I think we got like 7.
Yeah, there were 7 stories. And there's also, we know everybody's a little low on cash nowadays. There's also a tour called Free Tours by Foot. And you can also look them up online. It's freetoursbyfoot.com. And you can look up Spirits of 76 on the internet too. Free Tours by Foot, it is free, but they do recommend you giving a donation.
Yeah, and the Spirits of 76 one, that is, you pay for the tour, and then if you think that the person did a good job, you want to tip them and everything, because I think that's how they make most of their money.
Yes.
So, it's Philadelphia, especially in Center City, when you go down there at nighttime, it can be very eerie.
Yes, it can be. Especially when you have all of the old architecture and the cobbled streets and all of that stuff. It gives you a different ambiance.
Yes, especially like if you go down on like a foggy night, there's a bunch, it can give you, knowing what has gone on and all the history that's happened and the numerous people who have died over all these years, it's a very, very eerie, creepy atmosphere, but it's really cool, and I definitely would suggest come down to Philly and check it out. You would like it.
I feel anyway that it's completely different between when it's in the daytime and when it's at night.
Absolutely. During the daytime, it's hustle and bustle. There's a lot of people moving around down there because of all the businesses.
Lots of shopping, lots of people moving around, getting to work.
But then at nighttime, especially like right when the sun starts to set and it gets dark, it's pretty cool because it gets quieter, and you can just, especially when you walk down certain streets, like there's one street, Elfreth's Alley. It's the oldest street in the city, and it's still cobblestoned, and it's very narrow, and if you walk down there, especially in the evening, you can just, the ambiance, you would half expect a ghost or something coming up on you, and you can just look at it and imagine what it was like back in the past, when the colonial era.
Yeah, it's like you can almost imagine, Benjamin Franklin walking down the street or somebody of that time.
Yes, and then there are other sites down there too. The one story, it's actually going to be our first story. There's a spot in Philadelphia, down Center City. It's called Washington Square. Now, Washington Square is, during the Revolutionary War, it was used as a pauper's grave. So they would put a bunch of dead people who they didn't know who they were, things like that. They would put them in, they would all bury them here, and you would have grave robbers who would come over in the dark of night, and they would dig up and they would steal any goods that these people might have had.
And there were body snatchers too, right there?
Yes, because we have the University of Pennsylvania, and a lot of the research that they would do to learn how to, basically your anatomy, would come from body snatchers. That was a big profession back then. They would go grab the dead bodies, bring them, get money, and then they would use them to experiment on so they could learn about our anatomy.
That's crazy. Could you imagine just burying somebody, a loved family member, and then going to their gravesite and seeing it all decimated and destroyed?
Yeah, absolutely. It would be horrible. So there's a ghost story about Washington Square, and the ghost story, it's called Leah's Ghost.
And this is from GhostCityTours.com.
Yes. And the story goes that, according to legend, Washington Square is haunted by the ghost of a Quaker woman named Leah. Centuries ago, Leah protected the burial ground from grave robbers. Even though most people buried at the site were poor, this wasn't always the case. Take the Carpenters, for example, a prominent Philadelphia family. They separated a burial site for their family at the center of the square due to one of their members committing suicide. Because Christianity, if you commit suicide, it's a mortal sin, and you can never be can't be buried in a holy ground.
Yes.
Grave robbers were known to scope out these prominent interments, dig up the fresh graves, and steal the items the corpses were buried with. Men known as resurrectionists would resort to body snatching in order to obtain cadavers to sell to physicians and their anatomical studies. And that's where this Leah comes in. It's said that in life, she monitored the grounds, walking around the square with a lantern and scaring off potential grave robbers and body snatchers. Even today, some who have visited the park at night feel as if they're being followed and watched by an unseen presence. Some even swear they've seen a bright light floating through the grounds. Could it be Leah with her lantern?
Yes. Okay. So when we were on one of the tours, in Washington Square, when they were telling the story and everything, it did have a creepy feeling. It did feel like you were being watched by something.
Yeah, and that also goes to the person we had as our tour guide. They were really good because they were really good at setting the atmosphere. And you're thinking it's dark.
Mm-hmm.
You're walking around, and you get the eerie feeling that there could be there's somebody there watching you. So maybe. Could have been Leah, and she was watching us to make sure
that we didn't do no grave robbing.
Yes, we weren't disturbing the bodies of the many people who had passed away and been buried there. That's another place. You go to Washington Square during the day, and it's all bright. There are people out there having picnics, and they're having kids playing, dogs walking. It's really, really family friendly. Then once the night sets in and you go around to that area, it just has that weird, eerie feeling that like a cemetery would get, and it's interesting.
There's also another story about a Revolutionary War soldier that they don't know the identity of, who's buried there, who's been seen walking around Washington Square as well. So again, you never know if you're being watched by Leah or by a soldier or...
Who knows what other spirits? There are so many. The next story is about Benjamin Franklin. I'm sure everybody knows who Benjamin Franklin is. He was brilliant. He had the first newspaper. Mm-hmm. He created the printing press.
The bifocals.
I mean, he was electricity. Electricity. He was our chief person who went over to Paris to help get the French to join us. So here's a story about good old Ben.
And I knew that he had done all those amazing things. I didn't know he had a doctorate.
Yes, Dr. Benjamin Franklin. He was brilliant. So the story, there are a couple of stories of him too. This is just one that we had found and we're going to let you know about. Now this story goes on Easter Sundays. It is said that his statue at Library Hall, comes to life and he dances along the cobblestone streets. It's also said that he may visit the city tavern for a drink. Now, I don't know about you, but if I see a statue that just hops off of its pedestal and starts dancing around, I'd be going the other way. So how does anybody even know to report this?
Now, this is one of it's a little far-fetched, but as someone who doesn't like mannequin statues, things like that, I would be scared out of my wits. So if I saw a statue coming down off of the pedestal of the building, there'd be a poof of Diane smoke. I'd be out of there.
Yes, Library Hall, it's one of the sites you can go visit when you go down Center City. And the statue of Benjamin Franklin, I believe it's above...
I think it's above the doorway, yeah. And
so they say that he hops off of...
all the way down.
And then he wanders around and he has a good old time. Dances, stops at City Tavern, has a drink.
Yeah.
City Tavern is also a really interesting place to go to, and that is also has a ghost story about it.
Yes.
In City Tavern, they say that there's a ghost of a woman in white, a bride. She was going to get married, and she was up on the second floor of the tavern.
Yeah.
And the tavern is one of the longest operating taverns in, America.
Okay.
And she was up getting dressed when something happened downstairs and a fire broke out.
Oh, no.
And she tried to escape the fire, but she wasn't able to when she died.
Oh,
and it said that her spirit haunts City Tavern. And they also say that the spirit of her groom is said to be seen walking on the outside of the tavern, trying to get to his wife. Soon-to-be wife.
A lot of sad stories from back in that time.
Yeah. So, back to Ben Franklin. Here's another story about him. You go to the Christ Church burial ground. Now, the Christ Church is another beautiful, old Protestant cathedral that you can go to, and you can go inside, you can look at it, you can take pictures, and it has a graveyard in the back that you can go out into, and you can snap pictures there if you want. And that's where this ghost story comes from. This ghost story is about the burial ground. where Benjamin Franklin is buried. It's said to be haunted by the spirit of the famous founding father who once said, "A penny saved is 2 pence dear."
So
Kind of like a penny saved is a penny earned.
Okay.
He reportedly steals pocket change and even throws pennies at visitors. So when you walk by there, it's said to, if you don't want to have it thrown at you or your stuff stolen, it says to toss a penny on his tomb. You can actually see the grave where he's buried, and it's got tons of pennies all on top of it.
Yes, and when we were there, I believe we put
did.
some change on there.
Yes, we did. So that's very interesting as well, and it's just a cool little story. There's another story about Benjamin Franklin where it said that they have Franklin Court, which was his home when he lived here. It's now just like ruins, but they have them capped off.
Okay.
But it said that on certain nights, it said that people have seen a man who looks like Benjamin Franklin walking around in the ruins of where his house was.
Well, I guess if that's where he lived, that's most likely where he would be.
Yeah, and
if he stopped by for a visit.
And he supposedly walks up and down the street.
I could see that. I wonder what he thinks of us. Like, just how much we've changed.
It makes you wonder is he seeing like the world as we see it now,
or is he still seeing it when
he was alive? So to him, does it still look like his house? And he thinks he's just walking in and out of his house.
I guess it depends on what type of apparition he is.
Yeah.
Because, well, according to ghost hunters, there's the residual and there's the intelligence.
And they say he's an intelligent haunting, but who knows if any of that is true or not.
Well, if he's throwing pennies at you, then he knows that you're walking by, I guess.
He's trying to get your attention. So the next ghost story is Betsy Ross. So you have the Betsy Ross house. Now,
Yes.
Betsy Ross, it's said, the legend goes, that George Washington went to her at the beginning of the war, and he asked her to make him the flag. So it said that she was a seamstress.
Okay.
And it said that she sewed the first American flag with the 13 colonies. And her house is another place that is very eerie. It's very eerie when you go walking in there, and it's very small and cramped. It just adds to like the eeriness.
Yeah.
And you definitely get the feeling of being followed. And I actually believe the ghost hunters actually came here and went to the Betsy Ross house and did an investigation. Pretty sure they did. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they did. And it's just said that you can go there, and it said that the front part of the home was built in 1740. Ross is said to have resided there with her third husband. Visitors to the historic home have reported accounts of seeing her ghost crying at the foot of the bed due to the loss of her husband and several children.
It's very sad again. Very sad.
Just back then, they didn't have medical science like us, so fever could kill you. I mean, you could get a cold, and that could kill you. But it said that her ghost haunts there, and it said that you can hear her pacing up and down the stairs of the house.
She'd be cool to talk to and just be like, how many calluses did you have on your fingers after sewing that flag?
Yeah, right. But that's another place you can go to, and you can't miss it when you're walking around. And I think it's on Arch Street.
Yeah, I think that's when we did the free tours by foot. I think that's where we started outside her
Yeah,
house.
I think it is too. And it's got on the front of the house a giant flag, and it's the 13 colonies. So that's one of the stories. And then, of course, you have Independence Hall, which everybody knows Independence Hall. It's where the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution were debated and signed. And it says that witnesses have claimed to see ghostly mists and apparitions. Some of the spirits seen here include Benjamin Franklin and even Benedict Arnold.
Wow.
Independence Hall is another place where you can go in there and they give tours. And you can go take a tour, you can go through there, and that's pretty interesting too, especially if you like history. Because one of the stops during the tour of Independence Hall is they show you the room, the big painting where you see all of them standing around, and you got George Washington standing there. It's the room that they actually debated
That's crazy.
They debated the Declaration of Independence and also the Constitution. And think about it, when these guys were there doing this, they were committing high treason.
Yeah.
They were committing high treason against the king.
Yep.
And just the fact that the people back then, you had people who were that devoted to a cause. They were willing to risk everything. Makes you wonder how many people would do that nowadays.
And the buildings are so pretty.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they're really, really nice there. The architecture is just really, really interesting. It's all that colonial. And you got a lot of old brick houses there. It's definitely a must-see place to go to.
Yes, it's one of the big draws of coming to the city. Is you have to see City Hall, you have to see the Liberty Bell, you have to see Ben Franklin's grave.
Yeah, you want to go to the Constitution Center because they have a lot of stuff there that's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
There's tons to do. You could take a week easily and spend it down Center City, go into the sites and just the surrounding area. There's so much history around just the surrounding area. You have Valley Forge isn't too far from us.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have Fort Mifflin, which we did in one of our earlier episodes. That's right, not that far from there.
Washington's Crossing.
The Brandywine, the Battle of Brandywine. They have the battlefield that you can go to. There's so much that you can do coming here. And then you have tons of places the restaurants are fantastic, and there's places to shop, and there's just so much to do and see.
Yes, the restaurants down Center City are amazing. We're known for our food. Of course, we're known for the cheesesteaks and the pretzels and all of that stuff. But there's really amazing, like, Michelin star restaurants in the city.
Yeah, there are. They recently had a lot of remodeling that they did down in Center City, and now there's a lot of new restaurants that have opened, and you can go to 30th Street Station, you can go to
Reading Terminal
Market. So many things that you can do. And then there's Penn's Landing.
Mm-hmm.
And Penn's Landing is a place where they have festivals there, there's a beer garden, there's tons of things to do, and Penn's Landing leads us to our next story. In Penn's Landing, there are multiple ships that you can visit, and you can board them and walk around. They have a World War II submarine. Right across from us, you can take the ferry to New Jersey, where there's the Camden Aquarium, as well as the Battleship New Jersey, which you can tour. And there is the Cruiser Olympia, it launched in 1892. The Cruiser Olympia is now stationed at the Independent Seaport Museum at Penn's Landing. And there's a ghost story about that. It said shadowy figures and tales of murder and suicide are said to have inspired a paranormal presence aboard the ship. Guests might encounter the famous ghost of Gunnar Johnson during their visits. You can't miss the ship. It looks like the Titanic.
Yeah, it's huge.
It is. It's an enormous ship, and you can go to the Independent Seaport Museum.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole bunch of stuff in there that you can see, and then you can go out on the Penn's Landing, and you can go on board the Olympia, where you can walk around and you can tour it, and they'll talk to you. And then there's also a World War II submarine you can go in, and you can go down and they explain all that. And like I said, there are festivals all the time.
Yeah, and especially now that the weather's getting nicer, I think it's like almost every weekend they'll have.
Yeah, they usually have something almost every weekend. They even have one thing down where, I forget the street it's on, but they close the street off, and there's a bunch of little, like, restaurants and bistros, and they have all their stuff outside. And everybody can just go sit outside, and you can experience it all. It's very nice. And then also down at the riverfront, in the wintertime, we have the giant ice skating rink you can go to. And then you have the Mashulu. Now, the Mashulu is one of the world's biggest and oldest four-mast sailing ships that's still in the water. It's now a riverfront restaurant and bar. During the ship's heyday, 28 people died at sea while aboard. And some theorists surmise that this morbid history might have something to do with the murmurs and hysterical laughter that the owner and staff have reported hearing. The vessel is said to be haunted by the lantern ghost. Employees who open the restaurant report finding lanterns burning on the tables even after being extinguished.
That's amazing. Now, the Mishulu is a restaurant that we've wanted to go to for a very long time.
Yes.
It's hard to get reservations there.
Yes, it is.
But it's one of those things when you're coming off of 95, it's all lit up all the time.
Yes, you can't miss it.
Very recognizable, very pretty. But yeah, we have to go there and we have to do a review of it because it's one of the places I've been dying to go to.
Yeah, we have been wanting to go there for quite a few years, but it is pretty difficult to get reservations. You'd have to make reservations
like a couple weeks in advance.
Oh, probably a couple months in advance. But if you can do it, you should definitely try to. And also, Philadelphia is known for our zoo. The Philadelphia Zoo is the oldest zoo in America. It harbors nearly 1,300 animals and allegedly a few otherworldly friends. The Solitude House on the Philadelphia Zoo's grounds is said to be haunted by the spirit of a woman in a long dress who stands at the top of the staircase.
Oh, that's scary.
Meanwhile, poltergeist-style paranormal activity has also been reported in the Treehouse Building and the Penrose Building.
That's crazy. Who would ever think that a zoo is haunted?
Yeah, the zoo is amazing. I mean, if you come to Philadelphia again, it's a must-see attraction.
Yes, definitely.
You can go there. You walk around for the day. You can see. It's a zoo, so all the animals, and then they have the zoo balloon.
Yes.
You can actually buy tickets, get in the zoo balloon, and you can ride it, and it takes you high up above the zoo, and you can look out, and you can see everything from a bird's eye view.
Yes, that's another thing I always wanted to do. I know Chris is afraid of heights. That's something I've always wanted to do.
No, going up's not my problem. Coming down is. I have really bad vertigo.
Well, you have to come down.
Yeah, I know. But, yeah, the zoo it's an amazing place to go. Like I said, I lived here, so I'm not trying to, toot our own horn here, but we really do have a lot for people to come visit and experience and see.
Yes, you wouldn't be disappointed.
No, it's a lot of fun. I mean, we lived there, and my dad, we would just go down Center City for a day or 2 days and just go around and, see everything, take in the sights. It's a great place to come visit.
You have your local sports teams.
That too, you can come catch a baseball game at Citizens Bank Park, and then you can, after you take in a game at Citizens Bank Park, you can go wander around downtown.
And there's also Xfinity Live, which is a huge bar right by the stadium.
Yes, it is. No, there's so much to see and do here. You'd have to take a couple days if you really want to see and do everything. And like I said, you can go right over to Camden. Mm-hmm. You can check out their aquarium. It's a great aquarium. You can look at the Battleship.
Yep.
The Battleship New Jersey. That's something else you can go see. There's so much you can do and see in the area. And then if you're really staying for a while and you're up to drive in, take probably about an hour, maybe 2 hour drive out, and you can be in Lancaster.
Yeah, or you can go up to Gettysburg.
Or you can Gettysburg's about 3 hours away.
3 hours, yeah.
But yeah, you could go to Gettysburg. There's so much or you can go, again, depending on how long you were staying, you can go down to get a hotel in Philadelphia where you ain't paying astronomical prices. You want to go for a day, drive down to Wildwood. Spend a day in Wildwood, New Jersey.
Go
then
down the beach.
Come back here to stay. That way you're not paying those astronomically high prices that the beachfront gives you.
Since we've been talking about William Penn the whole episode, we should talk about the curse of William Penn. A superstition that goes that no championship will be held from any of the sports teams while a building is taller than William Penn's hat on top of City Hall.
Yes, and then they built the Comcast building, which was higher than it, and then we had a huge drought.
Yes.
And then as of 2007,
they put a tiny little figure of William Penn on top of the Comcast building, which I believe is still the biggest building in the city.
I believe it is too. And now, you have...
So that's when they said the curse is broken,
Yes.
But we're still in a championship drought.
Well, no, we won the World Series in 2008. The Eagles won.
Oh, yes, they did
Eagles won a few years ago. Just because your Flyers haven't done anything.
Yes,
Don't
my
set it on the
Flyers
other
haven't
teams.
done anything.
The other teams are still pretty good.
But I'm hoping now that we got good old Danny Briere as GM, he'll make some magic.
So, yeah, I mean, there is so much to do and see here. I mean, you could even, if you're staying in Philadelphia, you can drive half hour and go to the Neshaminy Park in Ben Salem. And you can spend a whole day walking around there. There are trails. There's the river's right there.
Mm-hmm.
They have picnic benches where you can go sit down. They have pavilions. There's a lot to do and see in this area.
There's no shortage of things to do, and if you're not really into like the history and all that stuff, we have shopping, we have restaurants, there's movie theaters, ice skating, tons of music festivals.
Yeah, they have big music festivals. I mean, the biggest one's got to be on the 4th of July.
Oh, yes, with the fireworks over the art museum.
That's huge.
We have a lot of great museums here as well.
Yeah, you got to mention the museums. You have the Franklin Institute, which is fantastic. They always have great things there.
Academy of Natural Science.
Yep, that's got all kinds of dinosaurs and all kinds of cool stuff like that. Then you have the Art Museum. And you have the Art Museum, which is a fantastic place to go check out. And you got the Rocky statue.
Yep, the Rocky statue. You can't leave here without seeing the Rocky statue and then running up the steps.
Yep. So there's a lot for everybody. There's something for just about everybody. So we've been kind of really talking up Philly, but you can't blame us. We've lived here a really long time. And we've done a lot of these things. So it would definitely be something that if you get a chance to, even if you live in Philadelphia or the surrounding areas, take a day. Go downtown, check out the sites, check out some of the museums. You can go to the Peter and Paul Basilica.
Yes, and I also want to say if you're down here and you need directions or you really need ideas on where to go, ask a local. We are known for being unfriendly, but if you ask any local where to go, they're not going to steer you wrong.
Yes, there's a lot. Especially like when you're down Center City, there are a lot of people who will be walking around. If you need directions, you can ask and they'll tell you where things are.
Yes, and they take a lot of pride in where they live. And again, we're known to being unfriendly, but you'll find most of us to be more of the friendly people.
Yeah, absolutely. And then another site you can see, City Hall, obviously. And then there is the Masonic Temple. If you're a Freemason, or if you just want to see some amazing architecture, you can go down there, and it's right next to City Hall, and it's beautiful. And you can take tours. You go in there. I think it's like maybe $5-6 for a ticket, and they'll walk you around, and they'll show you what it looks like in there, and it's amazing. There are pictures of Benjamin Franklin, George Washington. So
George Washington, a.k.a. Chris's love.
Yeah, but it's really it's a great place to come and check out. And you can get anywhere with our buses.
Yes.
Our SEPTA, they can run behind a lot, but they're usually pretty good. They can get you just about anywhere.
Oh, and as a fun fact, my grandfather used to dress up as Benjamin Franklin, and he would be in parades waving to everybody.
Oh, yeah, that's another thing we have here. You'll go walking around these places, and you'll have people who will dress up. You'll have people who will dress up as Ben Franklin, as Betsy Ross. Sometimes they'll have little things where you can go and check out. They'll have people dressed up like soldiers, and you can talk to them, and they'll tell you about things. You can go to the Revolutionary War Museum, which is an amazing place to go to if you want to check that out. There's tons of stuff there you can do. Then you have the Mutter Museum. You have the Please Touch Museum for children.
Yes. The Mutter Museum, it has medical oddities in it. So if you don't have a strong stomach, I wouldn't really recommend that.
Yeah, there's actually a couple ghost stories about that too, the Mutter Museum.
But if you can stomach it, it's a very unique place to visit.
Yes. I mean, like I said, there are tons of things to do. And the weather's changing, summer's coming. You should why not come on down and check out Philadelphia and see our sites, take in everything.
Take in all the ghost stories. We would love to have you.
Absolutely. So I think that's pretty much everything.
Yep.
So thank you for listening. Episode 8.
Episode 8 is crazy.
Yeah, we've been doing this for a while. We really enjoy it. I want to thank everybody who has listened, people who have followed, people who have checked out our Facebook page.
Yes.
All that stuff. It's been great. Please tell your friends, family members about us. We'd like to get our name out there because we really enjoy doing this, and it's fun. And we get to tell everybody some stuff that hopefully you didn't know, and hopefully it's things that'll pique your interest to make you want to go check out these places we talk about.
Yes. We are everywhere you listen to podcasts. We're on YouTube. Please follow us on Facebook. Give us a 5-star review on Spotify if you think we deserved it. And thank you for listening.
Yes, and as always, if you have any kind of thing you want to get in touch with us, if you have stories of your own, if you have ideas of places that we should go check out and maybe go for a day or stay for a weekend, hotel, haunted hotel or not, haunted area or not, something you would like to hear about, you can send us an email at penepicproductions@gmail.com. You can tell us your own stories if you have any. You can tell us about places you think we should try to go to. And we're all about trying to, we're going to be in a couple more episodes. We're probably going to be stopping for a little bit because, summer's coming and we're going to be traveling. They bring some more stories for everybody.
Yep.
So by all means, if you have any ideas or places that you would like to see or hear about, please drop us a line and tell us about it.
Yes. Thank you again.
Yes, thank you again for coming with us on our Haunted Escapes.
Bye.
Bye-bye.